Okay, I think we're live. Jeff Moody here, Jeff Moody MD, jeffmoody.com. Please head on over to the website if you have questions, sign up for the email list, sign up for this so we know that you're going to be able to watch these live streams with great guests like Mike Ware, who we're going to talk to today. Check out my book, The Doctor of Burnout, A Physician's Guide to Recovery. We have an online course. I always say I'm like a bad rash. You can't get rid of me. I'm kind of everywhere. So Facebook, Jeff Moody MD, LinkedIn, Jeff Moody. I should actually probably get like the real Jeff Moody, because I think that last time I Googled myself, there's like 57 Jeff Moody's, I think, in the United States. So probably want to get that, but I did get jeffmoody.com. So head on over there. You can sign up for stuff. But today, the thing I'm the most excited about is that we have my good friend, colleague, cohort, co-guy who I've worked with for like a decade, Mike Ware, who's the CEO of the El Paso County Medical Society. So that is here in Colorado Springs, not El Paso, Texas, but El Paso County, Colorado. And he formerly was with the Ohio State Medical Association, the American Medical Association, and one of only maybe one or two people in the country who've ever been with national, state, and local medical society. So, he's, we call him Mike or the big deal. Those are kind of the two ways we go with this. So
yeah, I know. I think there's a movie quote about my office smelling of mahogany. So,
but welcome to the show, Mike. Boom. What do you feel like your role is as CEO of the medical society? What is that? What do you do? Tell us about a typical day.
Oh gosh, you've got the on paper role of CEO, which is a mix of whatever needs to be done and a mix of that person unifying the vision, moving the organization forward. If you think of clearing a forest, CEO would be the person at the treetops looking out and making sure you're heading in the right direction.
Versus like the guy at the bottom with the axe chopping away, but doesn't know which direction they're going. So
absolutely, and so you've really got that definition in there. But really, if you want to talk about my personal definition and tying into my personal why, and I think you talk about that a little bit in your book, Knowing Your Why. But it's I look at my role as a CEO and as a leader. More importantly, that my job is to help people bring things out of themselves that they never thought they could accomplish. And it's not a definition I've seen anywhere. I don't think you're going to find it in any academic books talking about the role of a CEO or as a leader. Right. But really at the end of the day, whoever I'm working with, leading in 360 degrees in 3 dimensions, dealing with the board of directors, staff, stakeholders, the community, members. All of those groups.
I think I'm getting burned out just listening to that.
Fair enough. It's working with all of those groups, trying to help them discover and do things about themselves that they never thought they could accomplish. And ultimately, I'm in the business of self-actualization, of helping people achieve their highest goals and looking back on their lives and saying, gosh, I was able to make a difference.
Yeah. With like the talents and the resources, what do they have? It's like, let's take those and maximize those. It's interesting that you said that. I'm just, they're doing what's something called the Champions of Wellness. It's like a virtual seminar. And I just did a keynote. I taped my keynote for that because it's nice. Virtual. And that's the thing, I kind of pitched it to both doctors and CEOs or leaders. I'm like, you know what? One of the greatest powers that people have is their ability to tell a story. So I'm like, tell yourself a great story, tell the people you lead a great story. And then I'm like, the little secret is, I'll let you know the secret, you get to be the hero of that story. So that's great. I love that definition. I love that.
Thank you.
What do you feel, or I guess, what have you seen? You've been here in one location long enough. Have you seen, I think, a change in the level of burnout in the members here locally, or do you feel like that's been kind of static, or have things radically changed? I guess what's been your personal observation, or I don't know if you've surveyed membership.
Well, I mean, we're constantly talking to physicians and medical practices on a day-to-day basis. So, while it's been a few years since we've formally surveyed, we rely a lot on both statewide and national survey from groups like the American Medical Association and their partnership with the Rand Corporation. Those groups, really heavy hitting groups that are doing this. We rely on those groups for the quantitative data. Qualitatively, what we can talk about is, just it's almost like a train we've seen coming for many, many years, even before my time here. And
Slowly
exactly
coming down the track,
You got it. And even since quick aside, this week makes 9 years you and I have known each other.
That's right.
It does. And so even before that time that you and I started working together in that conversation in Breckenridge, that it's it really has come to a point where it's just been building and building and building. And so before coming here, my job was to travel the country and work with organizations like ours and help develop them, build them, and you really maximize the value that organizations like ours provide to physicians like you.
Yeah, the members. Yep.
And it's even all of that travel before taking this role as CEO. Saw it coming then. So it's just built and built and built. So you see this mix of financial pressures, you see the emotional pressures. You even talk about it in your book. And I think it's a great way to really humanize the experience. I talk to physicians on a regular basis who feel like they're not being the parents and the partners and the spouse and
right. It's a much broader I think impact, I guess.
Yeah. And so what we see on the burnout is it's built to the point where it's becoming a major economic issue. It's becoming a major societal issue. I would venture to say, it's just with some of the military folks we talk to, if you were to really push them, they would talk about this as a national security issue.
Oh yeah, I mean, because if you
go ahead. Sorry.
If you have some percentage of your organization, and I mean, if you look globally, like 40% of workers, not just physicians. Physicians, obviously, we like to overachieve. We're a little higher. We're like 50% plus, but of all workers, 40% are burned out. It's like, what if 40% of your workforce came to work every day at half capacity? All of a sudden you're 20% down, just if that's how bad it is. And even statistically, burned out worker is 60% more likely to take a sick day, 25% more likely to access the ER, 2.6 times more likely to leave your current job. So now you got people walking out the door, like who you spent, I don't know, weeks, months, years training. So now you're starting from scratch. So yeah, I totally get that. And from a national security standpoint, I mean, a lot of military in this town, in Colorado Springs, it becomes a force detractor instead of a force multiplier, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, Churchill was great about talking about the health of a nation as a strategic asset. And you didn't really get a lot of notoriety for it. I mean, definitely known for some much bigger concepts. But if you really study Churchill, he talked about the health of a nation as a strategic asset. And so we're getting there with the point where our caregivers are now the ones who need the help. And that's when we talk about physician burnout. That's why it is such a massive issue. And most people don't know that over one physician commits suicide a day. We have physicians have the highest suicide rate of any profession in the country. That's huge. And so the fact that we're just now starting to get some sunlight on it in the last couple of years is good, but man, there's a lot of work to do.
Well, and the thing, the way I kind of think of this when I'm talking to you or, doctor groups or clients, whoever, I'm like, okay, the first thing you have to do is you have to realize that you have a problem, which I think a lot of physicians don't want to think about that or shine that light on themselves. Second thing, I'm like, if you're in a hole, stop digging. Okay. I think, I feel like right now, that's all where we are. We're like, okay, maybe we realize there's a problem. Now we're going to maybe at least not make it worse, but it's like, holy cow, we got a long way to go to get back to okay and then get to better. So I feel like I said, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I wrote the book, I mean, we have to get the train stopped and then get it going the other direction.
Absolutely.
So what do you feel like, what are some of the things you can offer members as far as services or advice, or, what have other medical societies maybe across the country been doing for burnout, I guess, for their members?
Well, there are a number of things that can be done. And, so I'm going to both talk about some of the things that all organizations like ours can do, some of the, ones that more forward-thinking organizations are doing, and just kind of where we fit in. But I'm also going to challenge my colleagues here, because I really think that as an industry, we're letting down physicians like you. And in part, and you made a good, point, as we've talked about this, we're not set up to do that.
Right. Exactly.
However, it's at a certain point, you've got to say, who are we here to serve? Just because our what and our how is different doesn't mean our why has changed. And our why, since our industry came to the U.S. in the 1780s with the what's now the Massachusetts Medical Society, that how we go about that needs to change. So, but to your question, first, any organization, whether it's a medical society, a professional association, just a group of friends getting together, there's a sense of community out there that really helps. And just being a fellow overachiever like you, like the rest of the physicians that we work with, we tend to be hard charging. We push forward. We have a high tolerance for challenge and difficulty and circumstances that need overcome. But that can also lead to a sense of, gosh, well, Jim over there is not dealing with this. Why am I dealing with this? There must be something wrong with me. I'm the only one. And when you start talking to people, when you peel back that protective layer, you start realizing through that just sense of community, hey, everybody's deling with this.
And everybody's in the same boat. It's just a question of how fast the boat is sinking.
Absolutely. It's a good way to put it. Yeah. And, so there's that sense of community. There's, also just kind of, that would be the right brain. The left brain would be, there's all kinds of information, resources. Right. Our job is to be that repository of knowledge for folks, like you and your nearly 1 million colleagues around the country, to be able to provide you with whatever resources put you in the best position to be the most effective caregiver for your patients. And whether that's in burnout or the business or of medicine or whatever, that's what we're here for.
I feel like that's kind of what I perceive the real strength in the medical side is, like, you can kind of be like the traffic cop. Like, there's all these options out there. Like we have, like you have vetted, like there's 87 options. Here's 2 really good ones. Pick one of these 2. Like you need a website person, or you need, somebody to do regulatory stuff for you. OSHA, you need burnout help. Let us do the legwork. Let's cull it down to the accurate stuff. And here, pick one of these 2 things. Either one will be good, and either one will help you. The PHP. How to access the physician health programs, effectively. Those types of things. And then I think also, maybe you were going to segue into this, but I know other medical societies have talked about doing direct access type, to therapy for burnout. So I guess maybe you could expand on that a little bit.
Well, it is. And when I talk about what some of the more forward thinking, groups that we work with in the country are doing, that was really the example I was going to cite. And so one of the reasons of and benefits of having that done through the medical society is it can be set up in a way through less therapy, more of a coaching program. And that prevents some of the concerns that physicians have about
privacy, HIPAA, licensure. Yes.
Do I have to report this on my credentialing with the hospital, with the health plan? Do I have to report this to the state? It gets it provides some help without adding that kind of risk involved. The same with employer physicians too, which are very A, more likely to be burned out, and then B, are concerned very much about their employers finding out.
Maybe under more of a microscope, because they have somebody else looking over their shoulder.
Absolutely. And so it becomes this place where you have physicians in a community being able to talk to each other, being able to access professional resources in a manner that does not threaten their their livelihoods. And I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's a heavy lift to get to where you can treat patients. By the time you start your undergrad all the way through to when you are out of your residency, it is a lift.
Yep. 11 years for me.
Absolutely.
I mean, end of undergrad. So 15 years. I would say, I mean, I was on the remedial track. I was a slow guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't put those things in jeopardy. So, it was really pioneered. It started in Salem, Oregon, but it was really pioneered in the model for our industry to do this was really refined in Portland. And, their organization has really helped deploy that type of program throughout the country.
I think that sounds great. I mean, and it's one of those things, like, I feel like to a certain extent from a member standpoint, if that was like an extra $50 a year or something like that to have access to the program, even if I didn't necessarily use it, but somebody else, but almost like an insurance model, like a spreading out the cost over many people type thing, then the people who need it, God, go do it. I love the coaching frame around that, because really, I think, when I talk about like what we do with our clients, and when I'm giving talks, is like, I'm like, my kind of burnout is what's happening right now, and it's significant and it's very damaging and harmful to physicians. But what I try to get people to think about is like, let's build you a new life. Let's build you a new construct or a new way to carry yourself through the world. And a side effect of that is your burnout's going to get better. Your burnout's going to get gone or get 95% better. And then it's just those little daily course corrections that you do. So and to me, if I became much less burned out, my depression would get better by itself. My anxiety would get better by itself, because all the things that were causing those problems and that fed into the burnout, now all those things go away. And so then the results, like, I think burnout is a result. I think depression and anxiety a lot of times are results of outside forces. So it's like, I think a coaching model is I think it's a very smart way to do it. I think it's a very practical way to do it. And it's something that, it's not going to take, let me sit in a room talking to someone, therapy, and therapy is also a component of this. I'm not belittling it or downplaying that, but I don't want to talk to somebody an hour a day, an hour 3 times a week for a year before something starts to happen. I'm like, maybe I need some action steps now. And I think the coaching model is great for getting people moving. I guess that's my personal take on coaching.
It seems like it's been effective in the groups that have done it. But even my executive coach that I worked with for about 2 years, clinical psychologist, but he talks about, I had a couple years where I was doing clinical therapy, but I really wanted to see things move faster.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, the coaching was, even for him as a clinician, was something that was more attractive. But you're absolutely right on that. And so far, I mean, it's all indications, and we're about 3 years in from really just deploying this throughout multiple organizations in the country. It's been pretty successful.
That's great. And then currently we don't utilize services or offer that right now in El Paso County, correct? But
that's correct.
But maybe
we're a bit of set up to get there.
Right. But maybe moving towards that.
Yeah. It's definitely something we're looking seriously at. It's where we've really focused over the last few years is getting, it's phrase is kind of overused, but I think it's appropriate, getting upstream and addressing some of the things that you talked about with insurance pressures, with dealing with, especially if you're dealing with an employer, and I know you own your practice, but the other pressures that go along with that, dealing with the regulatory side of things. And, if you really want to address burnout, programs like we talked about can help, but really, getting to what you were just talking about, the root cause is, talk to physicians. I have yet to have a physician tell me in my 18 years in this business that I am burned out because of dealing with patients.
Yeah.
It's EMR. It's, it's the government. It's, you name it. But that time with the patient, that's what feeds your soul.
Oh, like that. That's like, I always say, like, and I give talks. I've gone down to Pueblo and given talks. We we give talks, and when you survey the audience, we're like, what percentage of people are burned out seeing patients and doing surgery, or what percentage of doctors are burned out, seeing patients and doing surgery? Like 0 to 5%. What percentage of doctors are burned out because of their email? Like 200%. Like if you like raise your hand twice, you'd be like, I always say it used to take me 30 minutes a day to document my entire day. And we would dictate, we had a transcriptionist, boom, we had a beautiful note, because my transcriptionist could understand my garbled, speech. And now it takes me an hour and a half, probably, only an extra hour a day for the last decade and for the rest of my career. And I'm like, and I don't feel like the notes are any better. They're no better. And the other thing, Mike, and I don't know if you've seen this or not, or you work with physicians, but sometimes you get these EMR generated notes that are 10 or 12 pages long. Like, unfortunately, like I don't even read them, or I spend a minute or two trying to find the one line in 12 pages of text, that's important. And then I'm just like, I don't have time to deal with this. I'm like, and so I have to I'll call the guy, or I'll just talk to the patient. I'm like, what did your doctor say? I can't tell him this 20-page note,
Well, absolutely. Well, there are all kinds of things. That's just one example. But I mean, really, if you even take this out of medicine, it's what we've done is we've created an irrational system. And it has the wrong incentives, the wrong structure. We have put all these barriers between the physician-patient relationship. And so now your customer is, even though you're there to treat the patient, the way we've set this up is the patient's not the customer. You take your orders from the insurance company or from an employer or from this other group. You've had your entire autonomy just completely taken away.
But the good thing, the cool thing is I still have all of the responsibility and all of the liability. That's awesome. That, have to be responsible for everything and order everything and have all the liability and malpractice, but then everyone else is going to be telling me what to do. So, and how to do it. So absolutely. It's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, who wouldn't want that? I mean, come on.
And the other funny part is, like, I was at a meeting, it's been probably 6-8 months ago, with a bunch of urologists, and somebody gave a talk about burnout. It wasn't me. And everyone was like, their favorite place to be is in the OR, because you were like, there's no EMR. Well, I mean, you're not interacting with the EMR. You're actually doing the surgery. It's like the sanctuary. And unfortunately, like if you're a primary care doctor or a non-surgical specialty, you never get away from it. Like you got the EMR like 8 hours a day, all day, every day. Like, no wonder, it's probably the burnout's a little higher in primary care. So it's definitely problematic. All right. So what solutions would be, maybe try to implement a coaching program here in El Paso County or more nationwide, and obviously it takes steps and resources. Try to, I feel like, raise awareness, and that's what I feel like we're doing right now today. And then I guess any other action steps or things that people can do, like I'm a burned out doctor. I'm really at the end of my rope. What can I do, Mike? How can the medical society help me?
Well, I'll give you two answers, one from the medical society and one just from a leader in general. And from the medical society standpoint, our entire purpose in life is to be able to support physicians like you and being able to be effective caregivers for your patients. I mean, we support the people who support patients. And so whether it's a business issue, whether it's you're needing access to some clinical information, whether it is just you're addressing an idea or connecting with the right people, or anything like that. I mean, it's pretty broad, but really, as a membership organization, we're driven not by shareholders, we're driven by the needs of our members. And so that provides us with a lot of flexibility. And we're really an access point to an entire community.
Right.
And so we can be that nexus, for lack of a better term. As a leader, though, what I would say, the number one thing people can do is connect with their why. I mean, for me, and just in preparing for today's conversation, really forced me to think about what are those things that when, you know, that when I'm feeling the pressure, you know, really drive me. And for me, it goes back to what we talked about in my role as a CEO and as a leader in helping people develop. That's like oxygen to me. So if you were to stick me in a room and I can't, you know, help people, you know, basically, you know, they'll pull off the impossible, for lack of a better term, I'm going to burn out pretty fast. If you say, read this report, jot down some notes, but, you know, don't make anything happen. We just kind of want you to sit there and ponder it, you know, versus making something happen. Yeah, that's going to burn me out pretty fast. So, you know, when I talk to patients or talk to physicians, you know, it's reconnecting with that why, and almost consistently, it's that patient interaction is that part that feeds their soul. So remembering that, or, you know, whatever your why is. You know,
I always tell people, I'm like, you know, if there's something that you like, let's maximize that. Let's maximize your exposure to that, and minimize all the other stuff. So, for example, EMR, like if it's humanly possible, get a scribe, minimize your personal interaction with the EMR, so then you can actually be present with the patient and do the doctor-patient thing. Absolutely. And let someone else take care of those details. You know, in general, that cost is maybe seeing one more patient per day over the course of a year.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and we kind of use a modified scribe system in the office. So we don't have computers in the room because of this. We want to be with the patient. So.
Well, absolutely. And then, you know, what you just did is a great example of another thing that we really try to instill in our team and anybody we interact with. And that is, everything that you need to solve the headaches in your life is staring you in the mirror. That is the only thing you need. And it's all in here and it's in here. So as long as you remember that, you have control of your life. You are in the driver's seat. And so you will come up with those solutions that'll get you to that place that you want to be.
And I love that point, because I do think, Mike, so for me, one of the components of kind of the final stages of burnout is people they feel kind of like hopeless and powerless. They're like, I can't do anything about it and I can't change it. So I think, to me, that's like you really get into that last kind of trapped stage. I'm like, whoa. I mean, life is full of choices. There's 1,000 things that you can do as a physician that have nothing to do with patient care. You can, you know, be an expert witness. You can go do chart review. You can go work for a pharmaceutical company. I mean, you know, there are many options. There are different ways to do what we do. You can work for a community health department. You can go volunteer someplace. I mean, I think people get so tied into, well, the way I exactly do it now isn't the way I've always done it, and I don't like it anymore, but if I work harder, it'll get better. I'm like, maybe not. Maybe we need to change the thinking, or change I think of it as option generation. Let's talk about options for you. So, Mike, thank you. It's been awesome.
That's great as always, Jeff.
EPCMS.org if you want to get a hold of Mike. He's a great guy, super smart, help you wherever you are. JeffMoody.com. Come on over, sign up for the email list so you don't miss any notification of this stuff. We should have a link there for the Champions of Wellness Summit, but if you go to championswellness.com, you can sign up for that meeting. Check out the book, The Doctor's Burned Out. Check out the live stream. Check out Facebook, Jeff Moody, MD. I mean, like I said, I'm a bad rash. You can't get rid of me. So the main thing, though, always for me is, please access the services you need, either with me, with Mike, whoever, to get your burnout under control. Because remember, burnout recovery is for you. And thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.